So in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet the Apache tiers. Some people think it looks like a checkerboard staircase, some people think that it looks like arrowheads. So in this version I'm doing it in 2 colours. You can do this in any combination of colours that you would like, just following the same repeated pattern that we have here. So let's get to it. Hello, my name's Karen Stangram and welcome to Conquer Crochet, the channel for tips, tricks and techniques for conquering your crochet. Everything I talk about in today's video will be linked in the descriptions below. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss a single stitch. So if you're keen to get going with this video, give me a thumbs up and let's do this. So for this tutorial I'm going to use 2 colours. This is the Aldi double knit yarn and I'm using a purple and the aqua. I'm also going to use a 4mm crochet hook, my scissors cutting off my end and my needle for sewing in my ends. So there are lots of different ways of doing the alpine stitch depending how many colours you want to do, how much distance you want to have between your stitches. But for this one I'm going to show you how you can do a fairly easy, straightforward one. There are some more complicated versions where you're sort of changing colours every row. And this one we're going to work in blocks. So we're going to start off with a slip knot. You can do this in whichever way you prefer. And I'm going to chain 52. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pause the video now whilst you make your chain. You can make your chain as long as you want it to be. So I've crocheted my 52, so that's going to be 51 stitches, and the 52nd stitch is going to be my turning chain. So I'm going to do a double crochet row. That's single crochet in US terminology. So I'm going to start in the 2nd chain from the hook. So we don't count the one on the hook, so 1, 2, and we insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops on your hook. So insert, yarn over, pull the yarn back through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull back through. And we're just going to work a whole row of double crochets all the way back down our foundation chain. So pause the video now whilst you work back down your chain. So I'm just coming up to the end of my first row of double crochets there. And we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. This chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Therefore we are going to work into that very first stitch, which is here, and we are going to work into the back loops only. So we're going to be doing double crochets in the back loops all the way across. So we have our 2 parts of the stitch there. The one closest to you is the front, the one furthest away is the back. So we're going to insert into that back loop only, and we're doing double crochet, so yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on your hook. Again in through that back loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. In through the back loop, yarn over, pull through the 2. And we're going to work this way, doing double crochets or single crochets if you're in the US, into the back loop only of all of the stitches, working our way back down our row of double crochets we just made. So pause the video now whilst you make your row of back loop only double crochets. So I've just come to the end of my first row, so I have a foundation chain and I have a row of double crochets, and I'm going to yarn over and fasten off. We're going to reattach our yarn, and we're reattaching the same colour, so that might seem a little bit crazy, but you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to make a slip knot, and you can attach your yarn in whichever way you prefer. Going to find that first stitch of the row, pop my crochet hook in, pop my slip knot over my crochet hook and pull that loop through, and then chain one, and I'm going to tighten up. Now because that chain one doesn't count, we're going to still be working in that first stitch, and we're going to work a row of double crochets again, but this time we're just going into the back loop. So if you can see, you've got your V's on each of your stitches here. This is the front loop, this is the back loop. I'm just showing you here, I'm not going through this stitch, we're just showing you here, but because I've got that chain there, it's a bit trickier to see. So we're going through the back loops of all of these stitches. So that's that one there. We're doing double crochet, so I'm just going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. Through the back loop again, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops. And we're going to work all the way down this row with our back loop only double crochet. And what happens when you have back loops only, it pushes that front loop forward, so you get a little sort of ridge as you're working along. So pause the video now whilst you make your row of back loop only double crochets. So I've just come to the end of row 2 where I've got my double crochets in the back loops only, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through, and I'm going to fasten off. Pull that yarn back through, pull the tail just to tighten up. And again we're going to go back to the start of this row. We're staying with the same colour. I know it seems a bit crazy to be changing rows and rejoining each time with the same colour, but it does mean that we're going to be going through the back loops again. Now if we did the back loops on the reverse, on the wrong side, then it would all be pointing the wrong way, so it needs to come through onto the front. So we're going to make a slip knot. Again, you can do this in whichever way you prefer to join your yarn. Find your first stitch. Going to go through both parts of the loop, put my slip knot on my hook, pull through, and chain one, and tighten up. Okay, again we're going to do another row now of back loop only double crochets. So I'm going into the back loop of that very first stitch where I've just joined my yarn, because that chain one didn't count, and I'm going to do a whole row of back loop only double crochets, just as we did in row 2. We do exactly the same for row 3. So pause the video whilst you work your way back down this row. So I finished my third row and I fastened off my yarn. Now I'm going to start with my next colour. So I'm going to go back to the start of the row. Remember, we're always working on the right side of our work. So we're going to insert our crochet hook into there. To make a slip knot, again you can join your yarn whichever way you prefer to join your yarn. I'm going to pull through and chain one, and then going to do a double crochet in the back loop of that first stitch. Remember, the chain one doesn't count, so I'm going to do a double crochet into that back loop there. For the next stitch we're going to do a double treble into this stitch here, and we're going through just the front loops. So we've been working in the back loops only, and that's left these front loops free for us to do our tier stitches. So that first front loop there relates to this stitch, so I'm going into the next one, which is in this row here. So 1, 2, 3. So I yarn over, come underneath that front loop there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, making sure you go through all that yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that stitch now will hide our double crochet that we did in the previous row. So we're going to work into the next stitch along, and we're going to do a double crochet in the back loop of the next 7 stitches. So we miss this one out because it's hidden, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then we're going to do a repeat of that pattern, so we're going to do our double crochet into the third row down, into the front loop only. So 1, 2, 3, we're going into this loop here, so yarn over, you can come through the top if you prefer, I just prefer to come through the bottom, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, this stitch here is hiding this stitch there. So now I'm going to do another 7 back loop only double crochets. So I'm going to go 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Again, time to do our double treble. So 1, 2, 3, we're going through this stitch here. So yarn over, find the stitch we're working through, go under that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops. And that now covers that stitch, and we're just going to repeat this all the way down. So 7 back loop double crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 double treble in that third row down through the front loop. So pause the video now whilst you complete your row. So I'm just coming up to the end of year 4, so I've got my double treble going into this third row down. And then the final stitch, so we missed this one out, the final stitch is a double crochet into the back loop of the next stitch. We yarn over, pull through, and then fasten off. And we're going to rejoin this blue to the beginning, the first stitch. Again, rejoin however you prefer. So make sure I'm going through the right one, so I'm not going through the top of the double crochet because we did a back loop double crochet before. So I'm going to join in there, my chain 1, oops, put in the wrong tail here, there's the right tail. Okay, so we're now going to do 2 back loop double crochets, so I'm going into that first stitch into the back loop, and I'm going into the back loop of the one that is above our double treble. So this row is slightly different in that we start with 2 double crochets rather than the 1, which then gets us to this stitch here. And we're then going to go into the third row down. So that's going to be 1 row less. So we're not going to go into this stitch here, we're going to go into this one here. So it's 1, 2, 3. And this is where we get our tiers from. So we go through there with a double treble, so I yarned over twice, through that front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Again, we missed that stitch there, and we're going to do 7 back loop double crochets. So we're going 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Your 7th one should fall on top of that double treble from the previous row. We're then going to do our double treble for this row. So we're going to go 3 rows down, 1, 2, 3. So we're going through this loop here. So yarn over, through that loop, yarn over, pull through, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Remember that one is hiding that stitch, so 7 back loop trebles, and we're going to continue in exactly the same way all the way down this row. So pause the video now whilst you complete your row. So now when we come to the end of this row, we don't really want to have one of our long drop stitches as an end piece, so we're just going to double crochet into the back loop of that last stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and fasten off. So to start this 6th row then, I finished off row 5 and fastened off, and I'm going to join, still using the aqua, into that first stitch. Again, do this as you prefer to join your yarn, whichever method you prefer to do. Chain 1, and this time we're going to do 3 double crochets. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do our long stitch into here. So remembering to go through the back loops only. That's 1, 2, and 3. That last one will always be in the top of the last long stitch. Yarn over, count down our rows, 1, 2, 3. So we're going into that top purple one there, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. We don't go into that stitch there, so we do 7 back looped double crochets. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6 and 7. Then we do our long one, yarn over through that 1, 2, 3 front loop down, and we do our double treble. And we do this all the way along this row. So complete this row and I will meet you ready for the next row. So for the end of this row then, again we would have been going into one of the last stitches, so we're not going to do a drop stitch on this one. So this one's just going to stand on its own. So yarn over and fasten off. So we do 3 rows of each colour. So our next row we're going to go back to purple. So we take our purple, and again you can join in whichever way you prefer. Make sure we're going through that first stitch on the right side, pull our yarn through and chain 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches to make this time. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the back loops only, and then we do our drop stitch. So we count down 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, so that's the first row of blue that we had, yarn over, and we do our drop tier double treble in that stitch, and we just carry on in exactly the same way for all of the rows as we move through. So I'm going to crochet a few more rows for you now, and so you can see how the pattern works up. So So I'm just about to start row 11, so I'm going to join my yarn. Obviously I'm doing this in the same way as I've done all the way through this video. You do it in your way or the same way, entirely up to you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the pattern all the way through has been 7 back loop double crochets and then your long one. But we have the long one here. So in theory what we should do is put our long one here. But we don't really want our long stitch to be on right on the edge, the same as we haven't done long stitches on the edges on this side. So for this row, and for each repeat of this row in the pattern, we're going to do 8 double crochets. So remembering to go into the first one where we have joined. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 going into the top of that double treble. Then we can do our next double treble in the next stitch. So I'm going to finish this row and I'll come back and show you how we do the start of the next row. So we're just coming to row 12 now. So I'm going to join my yarn in the same way as we've been doing. And row 12 is essentially a repeat of row 4. So just chain one there. If we go back down and have a look at row 4, so 1, 2, 3, so that's the first blue row, you can see we have 1 double crochet and then the tier. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do our first double crochet in that stitch we just joined onto, and then we're going to do our drop tier 1, 2, and that's going in that first row of purple there. Then we carry on with our 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and the pattern then just carries on exactly the same. So we're carrying on from row 4 all the way through, so it'll just start this same pattern, and when we get to a certain point then we start again and again and again, and the pattern will just repeat. So after you've done 8 rows, that pattern will then start repeating again from here and give you the next line going up. So you're going to change colour every 3 rows for this pattern. You can change colour every row if you want to. You could have 3 colours and just change every 3 rows. You could have 3 colours and change every row. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. So there we have the basic pattern for doing our Apache tiers. Some people think they look like little checkered staircases. Some people see arrows, which is obviously where they get the Apache name from. Really lovely stitch to do, fairly straightforward, double crochet and then double trebles, front loops and back loops, so it's all fairly straightforward. The only issue that you have with this stitch are these where you have to sew in your ends, but other than that, really lovely stitch. So that's how to do the Apache tiers. I really hope you found today's tutorial useful. If there are any information that you need to find out about this video, have a look in the descriptions below where I post all the links to any freebies and other videos I think you might find useful. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed this video, to give me a thumbs up below. Don't forget also to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you've enjoyed it and you'd like to see more of my tutorial videos. There are 2 other videos on screen to help you on your crochet journey, and I will see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!